You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna become a communist. Apparently, this is what the general public thought would happen if people were exposed to the 1927 sci fi film Metropolis. For those who don't know, Metropolis is a film by Austrian American director Fritz Lang, and it's said to be a pioneer in the sci fi genre. What I think is Metropolis's biggest achievement is the fact that it's 3 hours long, it has no sound, no color, and yet somehow it's still nowhere near as boring as Dune. In fact, the imagery of Metropolis is so iconic, I'm willing to bet you've already seen it before, just didn't know where it was from. Footage from it has been used in all sorts of different music videos, most notably Radio Gaga by Queen and the Wax Taylor version of Que Sera Sera. But it's also very controversial, some claiming it to be one of the greatest pieces of cinema ever created, others claiming it's propaganda. Propaganda for what? Fucking everything, apparently. Communism, capitalism, Nazis. What? Before we get into the whole propaganda accusations or even the movie itself, I just want to go on like a quick tangent, real quick. So, the thing with movies, right? I like them, but I also despise them, and so stuff like Metropolis, it's often given this label of like classic or the best movie ever made, and it's like, okay, well, why is that? Clearly, because it's old, it's pretty good. I'm not doubting that it's good, and it has this kind of profound message about fascism, and it's like, okay, as a piece of cinema, I think it's very good. The production is very good. It's definitely a milestone in technology and even a milestone in culture. It's a very important movie. And not doubting that it's good, but as a story with a message and characters and all that, I think it falls flat for me. I would hesitate to call Metropolis a oh no, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Pompous? No, not pompous. Pretentious. That's it. I would hesitate to call it like a pretentious movie, but still, I can't say it's like the peak of all everything ever made. Oh, also, it's based on a book because being just cinema isn't good enough. Like another thing with this is one time a friend of mine said that I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is one of like the greatest sci-fi horrors ever made. And I'm not saying that it isn't, but like I'm fairly certain that that friend hadn't actually like sat down and read the book before. They probably just only know it through like TikTok or other social medias or whatever. They probably only say it's like the greatest sci-fi ever made just because they like heard about it or saw a YouTube video essay explaining it. They haven't actually like took the time to experience it themselves. And like again, I did read through it and I do like it. I do think it is pretty good, but like still, do you see where I'm coming from with this? What I'm trying to say is you should have your own opinions and shouldn't just parakeet whatever the zeitgeist is telling you to say. But Bradworst, if you don't think Metropolis is the peak of fictional writing, then what do you think is? Ho ho ho, sweet naive viewer. Isn't it obvious? Street Fighter 1994? No, not actually. In all seriousness, Bodies of Water. To understand why Metropolis is so controversial, I'll have to take you through the entirety of the story. The film mainly follows Freder, who at first lives in the upper class, upper high society, upper crust high society, upper big rich people portion of society, but he soon discovers that his world was created on the backs of workers who have been abused and tortured, forced to live in these tunnels beneath the city. Okay, technically before he goes to the underground city, but very early on he meets Maria, who lives in the underground city and is a kind of priestess who preaches about a better day, that someday the great mediator will come and make everything equal and, fix everything. Freder's father, John, doesn't want his son getting involved with the lower class people. He doesn't want him, finding out about them and getting corrupted. So there's also an evil scientist named Rotwang, and his wife Hel had died, so he was trying to build a robot to replace her, basically. But John goes up to him and is basically like, yo, my homeboy, what if instead you made a fake robot version of Maria and then had her sabotage everything? So they do exactly that. First, though, they end up having to kidnap Maria, and then they use the machine to, like, scan her or something, and then the robot turns into basically a clone of her. Now, when I looked it up, there were like 87 different names that the robot had, but in the version that I watched, which I'm pretty sure is the real version, I'll get into that later, they only referred to the robot as Machine Man, so that's what I'm going to say for the rest of this video. Which, if you needed to scan someone for the robot to turn into them and Hell was already dead, then, yeah, that plan probably wasn't gonna work out either way. Also, Hell is Fredder's mom. Then, as Maria, the machine man does a little dance and then collapses all of society, as you do. She gets all the workers underground all riled up and basically convinces them to rebel and have huge riots and stuff. They destroy a bunch of machinery and equipment, and this leads to this big collapse of certain parts of the city. The intention was for the rebellion to backfire, that way all the workers would blame Maria. She is also depicted riding this multi-headed dragon thing, which is meant to be a reference to this one Bible character, whose name I would really rather not say. Just look it up and you'll know why. Then all the people of the city are like, Maria's kind of evil and insane. Let's kill her. So at one point they do encounter the real Maria, who escaped from Rotwang's lab, and they almost kill her, but then she escapes again, so they end up finding Machine Man, and they burn her, or it, at the stake, and then it transforms back into its original robot form, which reveals to everyone that the Maria all along was really an imposter. At the end of the movie, it is revealed that Fredder was actually the prophesized mediator, and it is his destiny to connect the mind to the mind being the upper class and the hand being the lower class. This ending is probably what makes the movie so darn divisive. When it first came out, it was pretty, widely hated. It wouldn't really be seen as a classic until centuries later, as these sort of things tend to do, and there's also been many censored and edited versions of it, which I'm guessing went down something like this. This movie's a bunch of commie propaganda, and I don't want to see another second of it. You're just too lazy to watch a 3-hour movie, aren't you? Shut up! I was curious, so I looked up some reviews on this movie, and I don't mean like H.G. Wells having some pretentious thing he said when the movie first came out almost 100 years ago. I mean like modern day reviews of people on Reddit or other websites talking about their views on this movie, and my god, this is some of the most brain dead things I've ever heard. On one forum, I don't really remember what, someone said that Metropolis was communist propaganda. Now, I'm going to stop you right there. I will be the first to admit I don't really know everything there is to know about communism. In fact, I don't really think I know anything about communism at all. I don't really have any strong opinions toward or against it as a political ideology, and it is, I guess, possible there was some communist imagery in Metropolis that I just didn't catch on to, but what this person argued was that, well, it showed workers being oppressed, therefore it's anti-capitalist, therefore it's communist, therefore it's bad. Like, that is actually the way their thought process went. Anything that does not constantly suckle and jack off the dick of American capitalism is against this country and everything it stands for. You seem painfully insecure. I've heard other people argue pretty much the exact opposite, saying that since the movie pretty much ends with the rich returning to the upper class and the poor returning to the lower class, it basically is trying to say that things are fine the way they are and they don't need to change, which means that intentional or unintentional, Metropolis is fascist propaganda. Admittedly, as a take, it's not really that bad. But then some people would look at it and then try to piggyback off it and go, "Oh yeah, I totally knew Fritz Lang. Guy was a total Nazi. Metropolis is fascist Nazi propaganda. Why did I turn into Wilford Warfstache?" But yeah, nah, let's just ignore all those anti-Nazi movies he's made. Let's just ignore the fact that he's had very real personal negative experiences with Nazis. Let's just ignore the fact that the literal Reich censorship board wanted to edit down Metropolis. Let's just disregard all of that. But like I said before, saying that the ending to Metropolis specifically is accidental fascism is. I don't know, I actually do kind of agree with that one. So, with the working class and the ruling class now have this newfangled appreciation for each other, they see each other as equals, which, now that I think about it, I see the whole communist argument there. But at the same time, the upper class returns to the upper class, and the lower class returns to the lower class, so everyone just kind of goes back to their status quo and continues working. So, seems pretty capitalist to me. Yes, the work is depicted as hellish, but it still ends with them still having to do, like, probably mostly the same work. So, what I think it is that, yes, it's a critique on capitalism, but it's not completely anti capitalist. It's more so that it's a system that doesn't work, but could if properly handled. And here is when we get to my main gripe with Metropolis. For a dystopian sci fi fascist hellscape not set in, made in the 20s, it feels painfully naive. Like the presented solution is, oh, if we just tell the rich people that they're hurting everyone, then they'll probably stop being assholes. Yeah, that's Testicle Boy's issue. He just doesn't know about all those warehouses. That's Muskrat's issue. He just doesn't know about all those Kenyan workers. Oh, hold on, I got a Jolly Rancher in my mouth. So the thing is, like, I'm not saying that all the rich people are like the good guys, but still, the way they're, I guess, defeated would be the right term in the end seems inconclusive. Now, sure, John goes through a redemption arc towards the end, but that's like specific to him, though. Like, that doesn't really apply to every rich person, or even every rich person in the movie. There's no kind of general message of how a person could deal with the upper class in a society. Maybe that was too hard to convey through a story, or most likely, probably just not even the point of the story, since it's not necessarily about solving all the issues of capitalism, but more so just showing how a specific person could change over time. Like, even Fredder, the main character, his whole thing is that at the beginning he's a rich hedonist just like his father, but goes through a redemption arc. I think what the movie's trying to say is that a situation like this can't really be solved overnight, like it's not that easy, and it really is small societal changes, the people who have to gradually change as time goes on. But then at the same time, they actually kind of do solve everything overnight, or maybe they're just planting the seeds to solve everything. Maybe it is still a gradual change. I don't know. That's why I find it kind of weird. Now, let's talk about some of the other symbolism within the movie, like, for example, Rotwang. So earlier I said that Hel was his wife. It's actually not true. She was John's wife. I think there was like a whole love triangle thing between them. But anyway, Rotwang wants to create the Machine Man to bring back Hel, showing how he wants to basically tame the elements and control as much as he can, similar to how John is also trying to control the lower class. But even if he does successfully bring back Hel, the Machine Man will never be Hel. It's a husk, just like the husk happiness of material wealth. And what I find pretty fascinating is the religious imagery. I genuinely cannot tell if this movie is pro religion or anti religion, and I don't want to look it up because I don't want to taint my interpretation. So on the one hand, it's like, Marie is the priestess. She teaches of good faith and morals and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, so religion good. But then there's the evil Maria who resembles that one thing from the Bible and is like the bringer of chaos and doom or whatever. And it's like, okay, so again, there's kind of two sides of that. You could say that it's like, oh, well, since the, prophecy thing or whatever turned out to be true, there was an evil lady that was trying to bring about the end, then religion good. But then also it's like, well, the end didn't happen because everyone was fine in the end. And also that technically wasn't an actual woman, that wasn't Maria, that was a man. Machine Man. Ha, see what I did there? So is it supposed to be like religion is always right, or sometimes it's right, sometimes it just creates what's the word, paranoia, and then just makes things worse. Since Metropolis is more about coexistence and understanding each other, I like to think that it's the latter, that religion, much like technology, has kind of good parts about it and bad parts about it, and what we need to do as a society is find the balance in between all of that. Even the title Metropolis is in reference to the fact that Metropolis usually means this, like, big, bustling, utopian city. Aside from the book, the movie, and all those edited, censored versions of the movie, there have been quite a few times in popular culture that the likeness of Metropolis was used in stuff. Some of my favorites include The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I would describe as like public domain Avengers. They did like a crossover thing with Metropolis or something. And then, of course, who could forget Metropolis the anime? What's the public domain status on Metropolis? Is it? Hold on, let me check. 2023, so it is public domain, but a lot more recent than I thought it would be. I forget how copyright rules work, how long it takes. Okay, final thoughts. Let's see. I really like the special effects. They're probably my favorite part about it. A lot of people's favorite part about it. This was actually the first on-screen appearance of a robot, which is also pretty good. I like Bridget Helm as both the Marias, especially Evil Maria, and then I also really like Fredder because even though he does start out as this like spoiled rich kid, the moment he finds out people are like being tortured behind his back, he immediately wants to help and do what he can to get them out of there. But what do you think, dear viewer? Is it communist, capitalist, anti-communist, fascist, something else entirely? You can leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Just please don't be mean. And now, if you would excuse me, I'm off to have nightmares about my new sleep paralysis demon. Animated Elon Musk. Just kidding. Regular Elon Musk.